Hi, everyone. I'm Shelley, Lyle.
And I'm Brian Avery.
And welcome to Voices from the Field, a podcast brought to you by the Department of Sport Management at the University of Florida. This podcast was created to share the career journeys of sport industry professionals. Our hope is that you learn the ins and outs of different sport industry professions. We are excited to be with all of you this week and with our special guest, Marcus Gibbons. Marcus is the event coordinator at ASM Global. Marcus received his bachelor's degree in tourism, event, and recreation management from the University of Florida in 2019. His previous work experience includes guest services for the University Athletic Association and operations assistant for the University of Florida. He has also interned with SMG Worldwide Entertainment and Convention Venue before taking his current role with ASM Global in Jacksonville, Florida. Marcus, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Welcome, Marcus.
We're excited you're here, and we're want to just kind of hear about your career that you're in right now. And so, really, you have a short gap between when you graduated and where you are today. So, can you tell us what drew you to the field you're in?
Yeah, kind of what drew me is it's an interesting way. While playing sports in college, I actually, when we would travel to these different venues, these different stadiums, games, I would kind of randomly think about, who made all this happen? Who made, whether it be the logistics of getting there or, letting the fans in on time, just the kind of detailed aspect of how the games operated outside of just the football field. And so that kind of then pulled my interest into event management. And then that's where I learned more of the, tourism, hospitality, sports, all those different avenues within one, within one major. And that's kind of where I got drawn in almost immediately from the beginning of playing college sports.
Gotcha.
So if I can interject for a moment, what college sports did you play?
I played football.
Oh, perfect. What position did you play?
Offensive line.
Perfect.
The big guys that get no shine in the front.
I got you. I appreciate that.
I think that's super unique to be looking, normally you're like being an athlete, you're in the moment, but like to go, how did this all actually really start? Because clearly, there's a lot that goes into everything you guys do. So yeah, that's pretty unique, I think, to kind of miss the glam and glitz and go straight for like the operations side.
Yeah, I'm sure if you ask one of my coaches whether that was the right decision, probably wouldn't be a very good response. But
yeah, there's like, where were you? Why were you focused on the game? What's on here, Mark?
That's probably why I was missing blocks here and there. I was focused elsewhere.
However, it was like, yes, but I have a vision for my future. And it's here. And it's not playing football. So.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. All right.
Can you tell us a little bit about ASM Global and the events you host?
Yeah, so we were actually formerly known as SMG, but just this past year we merged with AEG, which was the second leading venue management company. So we merged to combine to make ASM. But ASM, it's varied by obviously city as well as it being worldwide. I work for ASM Jacksonville, and we are one of the only real cities or divisions of ASM that host multiple venues within the same city. So here we have seven facilities within Jacksonville. TIA Bank Field, which is the stadium where the Jaguars play. We have where the Jumbo Shrimp play, which is our affiliate baseball team. We have the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena. We have the Prime Osborne Convention Center, which is where I primarily work. The Times Union Theater, the Ritz Theater, and Daly's Place, which is a amphitheater that's connected to the stadium. So we are all underneath one general manager, but each venue has a director who then we all fall under.
Gotcha. Wow, that's a lot to keep up with. I mean, that's really unique to have so many different venues. So can you give us an overview of your duties and kind of responsibilities?
Yeah, so my primary job is as an event coordinator here at the Prime Osborne. I'm one of 3 event coordinators here. When we have a sales manager, director, something like that. But my job primarily is to, after the contract portion of a vendor wanting to set up an event here. Once the contract and they're all sold on the spaces that they're wanting to use for their event, then the event gets brought to me or one of my other coworkers, and we handle all the communication from the point that they sign the contract. They're locked into getting here. We handle the logistics of when security needs to be in the building, when the client gets into the building, what spaces they need to use, how they want to use it. Basically, work hand in hand with the client in order to make the event what they want it to be. Obviously, along the way, we kind of, if they're all over the place, we can offer our expertise, offer what we believe that space can be used, and the orientation of it. And 9 times out of 10, the client takes our direction and is like, okay, I think that actually works better than what I originally thought. So yeah, we handle all the aspects of the event, everywhere from security to the mailing of boxes to when a truck shows up to offload the things needed for the event, all that aspect, as well as handling the estimate, the price estimate, and the price settlements as well.
Gotcha. And so what does your day-to-day look like? Do you have a day-to-day that's normal, or is it in events, day of event, all that kind of stuff?
So COVID aside, typically, depending on the size of the event, the week leading up to it or the few days leading up to the event, the client typically gets in, they begin to, set up the space how they would like it. Our operations team is typically ready and has already set up the room for how the client would like it. But from the time in which I get here, 30 minutes before the client gets here, just to kind of make sure that the space that they would like is ready. Lights are on, AC is on, everything is perfect. And so from there, it's just, kind of working on the paperwork of things, making sure security's in. When the client gets in, making sure they have everything they need and they know that I'm their point of contact. And then throughout their event, we kind of stay in the background. We check every once in a while on them, but we try not to be too close into it. Then the event ends, and afterwards you stay and you make sure that everything is cleared out, make sure the client is out on time. And that's kind of the day of the event. I know leading up to it, it's just kind of a lot of making sure that everything, double checking on things, double checking on security, double checking to make sure that, we'll have enough people that are on hand for the event. So it's just a lot of double checking and making sure that all your P's and Q's are correct.
Yeah. So Marcus, you had said COVID aside, and you're kind of discussing your day-to-day in regards to that. When COVID first started and you were working with ASM or SMG before the merger, how did they repurpose you? What roles did you take on so you could stay busy when there wasn't a show to attend to in the convention center or other places? Did you work in the stadiums? Did you, assist at the baseball fields? I mean, what was that process for you?
I'll tell you, it was a very strange time, especially at the beginning, where everything just started falling off the board. So obviously we took about a month or two of everybody working from home. There was no events, nothing was open. But when we got back, our management team, of all the directors got together and utilized all the full-time staff in different ways to help other buildings, because with trying to cut costs, we can't use as many part-time workers. And so me having experience of interning at the stadium, I was primarily used at the stadium. I was full-time, so I was working a little bit here at the convention center, but then I would spend a lot of time assisting over at the stadium, whether it be trying to set up different, temperature scans, trying to set up more hand sanitizing stations, basically trying to repurpose everything so that the stadium is COVID safe.
Yeah.
Many other employees around the company who were familiar with other venues or even not familiar. We were just utilized in trying to help each other out so that each building is ready when we return back.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm happy to hear they were able to take the full-time staff and find other opportunities for them. Hopefully you guys are starting to pick up some steam again, and even get your part-time workers back to work in some capacity. So that's pretty cool. Now, when you first got into this role, how did you know whether you were a good fit for it or not?
When I first got in, the team that I work with is exceptional. It's not every day that you have a boss that knows that you are new to not only the building, but you're new to the industry.
Yeah.
He was well aware that I was coming from being an intern, and so he took the time to kind of, teach me on the little things. I knew the broad things from college, but he took the time to educate me on the little ins and outs. And from the very first event that was officially mine, it was a bit hectic, but it was controlled. I knew that some things are going to go crazy, but I felt it in my bones that, this is crazy, but this is what I love. I as crazy as it sounds, it's like an adrenaline junkie. Yeah. The client needs this last second, this needs that. And in the moment, I'm like freaking out, like, okay, I got to get this. But once I got through my first event, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I knew this industry was for me.
Yeah, it's great because I have some experience. I worked with GES in a trade show installation company. So we were the decorators moving in these massive conventions in some regards, 1 million square feet plus. And it's amazing how it is orchestrated and how many parts have to come together in such a short period of time. I mean, you essentially build a small city in a day or two, open up to the public, and then close it in under 24 hours and move out. So you have a very taxing job, and I can respect that. I'm wondering, is that the show set that you have above your shoulder?
Yeah, that's just kind of. Oh wait, that way.
That way, yeah, right. No.
Yeah, that's kind of the list of events that we have in the next month or two.
Okay.
Typically, as you know, it'd be a lot more.
Oh yeah.
But at this time, shows are feeling a bit antsy only because they feel like they can put it on, but they're having difficulty making sure they have enough vendors. So yeah.
I'm just happy to see any show sets at this point. So this progress.
And I would like to know really quick, you played football for University of Florida, like adrenaline junkie is in your bones. So I also played soccer at Florida many years ago. And I will say, like, I totally get where you're like, do I really want to do this? But you're like, yeah, I kind of did this like once a week. Like that whole, like all the pressure in the moment. And then once you're completing the project or the show, you're like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I want that again. It's adrenaline or something. Yeah,
it's the exact same way. And that's how I wasn't caught too off guard when things would go awry in the last second because of those sport. No practice is the same. It's not, you're not going to go through the same, there's always something that's going to be different. So when that happened in the event industry, I just kind of shifted my mind. Hey, you did this during sports. Let's shift that to the event industry. Let's shift that to your specific event.
Yeah. I don't think people appreciate sometimes what you learn in sports, team sports, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And how applicable it is to your work life in the future. So you learn a lot of great skills. And speaking of skills, what skills have you found most vital to your job?
I'd say definitely communication.
Okay.
I learned that, I learned that kind of day one, just because, there's different, you work with a whole different set of people. Whether it be, the janitor of the facility or your operations team or your security team, you have to be able to communicate to them because at the end of the day, they make your event successful as well. I work in the planning of it, this and that, but if it wasn't for security getting there on time, operations getting the set done on time, our janitors, our cleaning staff, making sure that each surface is clean for the client. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have as successful an event. So I learned that early on, you have to communicate and make sure that even if it's just a hello, that can make somebody's day, and that can then be like, hey, he actually cares about me, my day. He's not just kind of some overlord looking down on me and my position.
Right.
And so I just feel that communication and teamwork is the things that make an event truly successful.
Agreed. Without it, I remember we would have 10 and 2s every day of an event where it's just drilled into you. Here's what you have to do. Here's who you have to do it with. And boom. But you just got a routine of talking and speaking and being free, because you knew the show must go on and you had to get it done. And if you didn't arrive or deliver it on time, there were consequences. I mean, financial consequences too. So it's a tough business to be in. So
it is.
What activities about your job have you enjoyed the most or found the most interesting? And likewise, what have you disliked with respect to it?
The one thing that I say all the time, especially working in a convention center, I just love the variety of events that we host.
Okay.
With I coming from playing football, I obviously love sports. And it was a bit of a shift coming to the convention center because, there's very little sports type events here.
Yeah.
But I just love that, we have different events, like whether it be competitive dancing, competitive cheer, all the way to basically a free event that we host every Christmas, which is the Children's Miracle Giveaway, which is, we set up, we're there for an entire week of them building toys, bikes, and everything like that. And on the weekend before Christmas, it's open to the public. There's thousands of families, kids who come out who are more than likely less fortunate.
Yeah.
And so I just love the amount of different things that we do. It's not just one lane that we're in. We're in several different things. And right now we're a COVID vaccination spot. So that adds to the variety.
See, it's almost like I was able to, during my career in the trade show world, go to New Orleans in the convention center there right after Hurricane Katrina hit. And we put the first show in for the American Library Association. Your similar situations like a COVID vaccination site, if you will. I mean, you'll never forget that and what that looked like and the resources that are available and how the community came together and got a city, a state, a country back up and running. So it's pretty awesome to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, it truly, it makes you realize, it makes you appreciate your job, and it makes you just realize that you're doing so much more than just hosting a business meeting. It makes you, events like that make you feel, a purpose, a sense of purpose.
That's great. All right, Shelley.
Yeah. Were there any things you mentioned though about dislike that are probably the most challenging parts of your? Maybe you don't have to say dislikes. I feel like that's a bad term. Maybe you're not your favorite.
along with the communication aspect that I mentioned earlier, I will say there is some challenges in there as well, because different people within your team operate differently. Meaning they operate at different speeds. So it's definitely, especially in a time right now where we do have a lot of downtime with COVID, it is a bit difficult to, get somebody who's not moving around as much, and get them to kind of get back to the same speed of service that we typically give, whether it be, putting out a set of chairs or, getting to work on time or getting this door secured on time. That's probably one of the most challenging things that I have learned as well with that communication piece. But, over time, you learn ways of getting around it or really breaking through it and kind of saying, hey, I'm sorry, but this is the way that things have to be. We're working for the client. They're not working for us. We work for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't even thought about the impact that COVID would have going from not working an event to and the pace and the mindset. I mean, it really is it's like a game, like you got to get up for it. You know what's going. Everyone's got the energy, and that now you guys are having to restart some of those things that, we all kind of detoxed a little bit from that side of the world, I feel like. So yeah, that's really interesting. That's a great point, I think, for people just to recognize because we have, you're not full in, all your events aren't happening yet, but we're getting there. So yeah,
that's why we're right now, as my boss just said yesterday in a meeting, he was like, we don't have many events right now, but with the ones that we do, try to perfect them as much as possible. Try to basically practice your craft on these smaller events so that, when mid-year happens, or hopefully mid-year happens, we're all ready. We're all firing on all cylinders. There's no lack of communication. There's no lapse in service. We're all back to where we were in 2019 before, everything happened.
Yeah, sounds like you got a good leader for sure.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit of your transition from college life to work life and what that was like for you. And yeah, we're going to go into a little bit of how you can help some of our undergrads prepare. So we'll start with, you specifically. You're also unique. I will say, having been a college athlete, your schedule is not necessarily as free as maybe some of our other students. But for you, can you walk us through what that was like, changing from university, school life to work life?
Yeah, it was a bit interesting of a shift, coming from college where you go to class and you sometimes listen. I know Mr. Ezzy knows that. You somewhat listen, but when I got to the real world, I quickly realized that a lot of things that I learned in college almost perfectly translated over to the actual business world. I know in college we learn a lot of general things, but when you apply to the actual business world, you realize that a lot of these theories, a lot of these methods are much of the same. And so you already learned the outline of it. Mm-hmm. And so when I got to actually working or interning here, I used a lot of those things that I learned in college, a lot of those communication methods, a lot of those, hey, go and introduce yourself to this, or your elevator pitches, or different things like that. I learned quickly that, it wasn't just something that they were saying in college. It's actually used in the real world. So it was a bit of a shock moving from college to then the professional world. But you start after day one or day two, you start to learn the pace of things. You start to learn how quickly people expect things, how well they expect them, how well they need you to learn. And so it's something that, happens pretty quickly. But once you get into it, once your muscles get, once you start to keep doing it, you fall right in line, honestly.
Gotcha. Now that's helpful. And what do you, what, if anything, do you have, you would have done differently maybe in undergrad that would have benefited your transition, or maybe even potential job opportunities?
I'd say, I know I jumped into looking into internships or even looking into the industry late. I didn't really pay attention to that until about the beginning of my senior year. And so the one thing that I would say that I would have done differently is to look and learn these things earlier in my college career. Try to work on my resume, try to diversify myself even in college, whether it be different clubs, different people I spoke with. And just basically preparing myself a bit more earlier in the process and not waiting until the last second.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's always, we've been telling our students, especially now, to really reach out. Networking starts freshman year. You already start with the network, but then really, getting people plugged into different groups and opportunities on and off campus. So that's great. And so you have a unique role too because of events and the schedules you guys maintain. So I would love for you to give some advice on how to maintain a personal life. Now, I also know COVID hit really quickly, so you're in a very unique situation. But I just think for our students too, who transition to new cities, start new jobs, and especially with a sport industry or entertainment, like weekends are gone and all that. So do you have any advice you can pass along to them as well?
I'd say just as you said, network as much as possible. Because if I hadn't networked, I wouldn't have even gotten the internship possibility opportunity that I did. The opportunity that I got with ASM or SMG at the time, I actually had to email our HR manager probably a year or two before I even was able to qualify for the internship. And it was something that wasn't even, broadcasted on a lot of the, internship networks and everything like that. I actually just emailed, and just so happened that, they said, come back in a year when you're going into your senior year, or you're doing it for college credit. So I would just say reach out to as many people as possible, whether it be not necessarily to directly ask for an internship, but just to learn about their day-to-day, learn about what their job is like, what their company is like, their city is like, and just have an honest conversation, because that's where I got most of my information on how to move forward in the industry. And I know Mr. Avery, I still reach out to him just to try to boost my skills, boost my overall knowledge of the industry, because I feel that the more people you speak to, the more that increases your opportunity, the more that you can bring into another conversation, and that might land you an internship, a job. And especially with COVID now, people are spending a lot more time at home or working from home, or whether they're furloughed or laid off, they still have information that they can give to you, that can further you and further how you move forward.
Yeah, Marcus, I really appreciate what you've just said there. And you and I have had several conversations on top of connecting via LinkedIn probably a half dozen times. So back and forth. And I love every minute. I think that's the purpose of it, obviously. It's where we're here. And I don't think students and or just people in general take advantage of it enough. So it's great to hear. And we try to preach that message to say, listen, you're going to have to start early. It's a very competitive marketplace anymore, more so than it's ever been, I think, especially because of COVID. And you got to start building relationships. It's not just, who knows you, but but who knows you type mindset. So it's very important to build those relationships early. And it sounded like it worked for you in the long run. So that's awesome. Now, transitioning to a COVID specific question, because you were kind of talking about the ramp up has been slow roll, if you will, for the number of shows, but I'm sure it's given you an opportunity to determine what policies and procedures do we need to implement, and how do we implement it. So can you give us like a glimpse of what's changed in the event world, and how are you dealing with communicable disease protocols, and are you taking temperatures, and what's your cleaning process? If you could give us kind of some general insights into that.
Yeah, it's just when we came back from being out of the office for a couple months, last June or July, we had a company-wide meeting where they got everybody together, obviously spaced out, but everybody together, and gave us a general breakdown of what we would do differently, meaning temperatures, the general processes. And then as a building, we got together and really worked together on different signage we wanted to implement, different policies in each and every place of the building, because each building here is different.
Okay.
We operate, and we would need different things than the stadium would need. So for us, we have temperature checkpoints at different locations in the stadium. So we basically just got together and worked on, hey, if we have an event that's entering this side of the building, we will need this certain amount of temperature monitors right here, and we'll need to increase security. We'll need to do, we'll need to more frequently clean the bathrooms, sanitize these high touch areas. And so it was basically just us trying to rewrite the book, rewrite our typical contract, rewrite everything like that, so that our future clients know, hey, you might spend a little bit extra in security only because we need more people there to temp check. We need more people there to, just in case, and also enforce the mask policy.
Yeah.
And so things have changed a lot. And even in our typical exhibit shows, we've had maybe one or two smaller scale ones, but we've had to increase the aisle spaces.
Okay.
from 10 feet, which it typically is, to 20 feet. We've had to change the direction of how people walk. Typically, it's once you get in the building, free reign, you can walk wherever. But now in our show halls, we have to basically snake it so that people are going in one direction and they're out in that certain door, or they leave out of that certain door. We do have a mask policy, and the only challenge to that is that we also host weddings. And so with weddings, it's a bit more difficult to enforce the mask policy because it's an eating or drinking event.
Yeah.
We can only do as much as we can upon entry. And throughout, we're not going to be mask police, but throughout we try to heavily encourage, hey, right. If you're not actively eating or drinking, you have to put the mask on. So it's just different things like that, and things that we never thought we would have had to think about. We never would have thought, hey, we need to sanitize, the exit bar of a door.
Yeah.
We need to sanitize a microphone after a speaker has spoken. So it's just those different things that as we go along, we kind of have to roll with the punches, but also get together as a team and be like, all right, we need to do this differently for this type of event. So it's been a lot more groupthink.
Yeah.
And just kind of bouncing ideas off each other during this whole time, because nobody's, even me being younger or my coworkers being older, nobody's been through a time like this.
No, no one could have envisioned this. Maybe one or two people on Earth, possibility, but not in the way that it is unfolded. And I think it's going to be interesting, as like you said, perfect what you're doing in the downtime, so that maybe in the summer or even August, September, when things are at full speed in some way, shape, or form, this is down to a science. It's automated. There isn't really a question about, well, we got to do this, do that. And yes, things are going to be a little more expensive as a result, but I think environments in general are going to be a lot more safe, or safer, if you will.
Exactly.
We're cleaning them in a way that they probably should have always been cleaned.
Exactly.
You know where I'm coming from. So
you are very, very true.
Yeah,
very correct on that.
Yeah. So outside of that, and I really appreciate the insight. That's a thorough walkthrough of what you just provided. Do you have any advice to students that are interested in this field and how to maybe get their foot in the door?
I'd say nowadays it is a bit more difficult, but I would say just keep hope, but also continue reaching out, because internships, I know that everything, all protocols are a bit different, but I know that there's still places offering internships, whether they're paid, unpaid. That opportunity springs doors open all the time, because you speak with the right person, you meet the right person, and in the event industry, you meet more than just your core group of people. I've met people from all over the world just by being at this event or hosting this event. Mm-hmm. So I would say just continue to reach out, just continue to do all you can to bolster your skills. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn still learning about more things.
Yeah.
So just reach out, but at the same time, try to better yourself in any way you can.
Okay.
Whether reading magazines, reading online booklets, online things just about the event industry. Just kind of immerse yourself in the industry so that when we do return back with new and different protocols, you're not thinking about how things were in 2019. You're already thinking of how it is in 2021 and how we're going to have to change things for 2022 to be successful.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate the insight there. Now, if you were to hire someone, what qualifications would you be looking for in that person? Maybe right out of school, as an example.
I'd say somebody that has knowledge in a variety of aspects. Whether it be guest services, whether it be they were in this club, just knowing that they were active within the university, because a big portion of the event industry is being personable, working with others, talking with others, meeting new groups of people. So you kind of have to go on the fly. You kind of have to be comfortable working with people, kind of, just be very personable, but also somebody that honestly takes a leadership role in things, takes more, higher level. They don't want to just be complacent at where they are at this bottom level, that somebody that's constantly reaching for the top or they have their eyes set at the top. And that's somebody who will do well in this industry.
Okay.
Because, like I said, things are constantly evolving, things are constantly changing. And if you want to lead and if you want to take control, if you want to, hey, I can do this better, or I can work on this, or, just take that leadership role. That's somebody who I would hire personally.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been harping on quite a bit lately is be flexible right now, and be tenacious, and get out there, try to connect with as many people as possible. You're going to get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections. It only takes one yes to put you in a position that you're interested in. So
exactly,
I think that's key. Now, this has been a great interview. I really appreciate the content you've been provided. We're going to get to a real fun spot in a moment here. I think you'll enjoy this. But before we do that, do you mind if we share your contact information, whether LinkedIn or Instagram or however our student could get in contact with you if they had any further questions?
Of course. Yeah. I know I enjoyed when, we watched or we spoke with people in class. I would love learning from them and speaking with them. So I love nothing more than to give back to the university that gave me so much.
Yeah.
So feel free to anybody, contact me, email me, send me a LinkedIn message, anything like that. I'm always open to talking.
And by chance, would you be on Gator to Gator?
Yeah.
Look at this. He's on Gator to Gator, so he's out there even for mentoring positions. And so that's fantastic. And just look up Marcus Givens on LinkedIn, and you'll find him fairly quickly. If not, I can definitely connect you with him. He's in my feed on the short list. So cool.
I finally made it.
You did. Maybe I see it the vice versa, that I've made it. No, it's like a fun guy who is really going a lot of places. So it was a pleasure to speak with you. So with that said, Shelley's got an awesome gift here for you.
Oh, I don't know if it's a gift, but here's the video. It's our last kind of thing that we're going to go through. I call it the fire away questions.
Yeah.
It's 1 minute of fire away questions, just to get to know you on kind of a fun level. You look like you're uncertain. I know you got this. So what's going to happen is I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute, and I'm going to ask you questions, rapid fire. And you're just going to answer as quick as possible. For an example, burgers or pizza is the first question. I will ask you that question. And they're simple questions like that, just to see kind of the fun background of Marcus Givens a little bit, So let me start my watch really quick.
Starting off with
we're going to see how many you get. Yeah, you got this. It's going to be fun. Okay. And here we go. Okay. Burgers or pizza?
I got to go burgers.
First job?
ASM Global.
Current hobby?
Lifting weights.
Gainesville restaurant you went to the most?
Ooh, Relish. Yes.
LinkedIn or Twitter?
Twitter.
Netflix, Prime Video, or cable?
Netflix.
What's the worst hairstyle you have ever had?
Dreads. Yes.
Oh.
Name one daily habit.
Oh goodness. Sleeping.
Okay. Favorite animal?
Dogs.
Mountains or beaches?
Beaches, of course.
If I looked up your most played songs on your playlist, what song or artist would I see?
Oh goodness. You would see a lot of Juice WRLD. Yes.
Okay. Name one pet peeve.
Smacking food.
Oh.
Okay. In time. Well, thanks so much, Marcus. Yeah, you got it. There was only one left, but that's okay. I think you might have had the most thus far, although you can't really compete against others because I change the questions every time, so that no one can watch and then no. But thank you.
I have it in my mind that I was the quickest. There you go. I'll keep that in my mind.
It's all about competition, right? We don't. As an athlete, you got to win.
Exactly.
Well, I think, Shelley, that was an unfair advantage because, like you said, you had like 3 or 4 extra questions compared to anyone else thus far.
Well, and some are open-ended, so it's like, if they were all like LinkedIn or Twitter, it might be, I could count it, but unfortunately, they're all unique. So
some of those would make me struggle. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I was really just on the fly there. Like, oh man.
Well, great. So thank you so much, Marcus, for joining us today and taking the time to share your professional endeavors. I am certain that the University of Florida Department of Sport Management students the faculty and the alumni appreciate and value your thoughts today. I'm hopeful that beyond just the UF campus, that globally, people take a note and view what you've had to say today, because it's very insightful and helpful for students and those entering the marketplace in that transitional period early on. And it's important to capture what that looks like. So with that being said, before we depart, do you have any concluding remarks that you'd like to share with us?
Just to echo, like I said, anybody who wants to get in contact, wants to learn more about the industry, who wants to learn more about Jacksonville itself, any skills or any questions at all, feel free to contact me. Like I said, I love helping out students the same way that I was helped out.
Perfect.
Definitely reach out and speak with somebody like Shelley. I know I leaned heavily on Craig when he was here.
Yep.
I leaned heavily on him, and just take up any opportunity that you can to network, whether it's in your same field in what you want to do, or whether it's closely related. Take those chances, because you never know what will spring open from that opportunity taken. Just continue to be involved, and keep working hard and listen in class.
Listen, there you go. Marcus, I recall that you listened fairly intently in my class, so I don't think there was a problem there.
That's because the consequences of not listening were the road I didn't want to take.
Nice. All right, that's fair. There was a good support system in that classroom, though, too. So it was well structured. It was a fun time. So, well, good. So thank you, Marcus, again for your insight and time. We are your hosts, Brian Avery and
Shelley Lyle.
And go Gators.
Go Gators.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.